What's going on, guys? Wanted to make another video for you guys today. This one is a more generalized video. I wanted to show the current state of DeFi on Ronin before it goes permissionless. If there's some things that you wanted to check out, before we explode, we do have a lot of the basics and base things on DeFi. So I wanted to go over them really quickly and then maybe suggest some of the things that might be coming after we go permissionless or even just before. That is in about 2 months from today. So starting from the early easy things, we do have a DEX, and it's called the Katana DEX, where you can swap between a whole bunch of tokens, and more are added almost every week, at least every month, with new games being onboarded and new tokens being brought in. So like in most DEXs, you connect your wallet, you choose the amount of tokens you want to swap, and you can swap for whatever token. It's pretty basic. You go on app.roninchain.com and go to under Katana, you see swap. Now, what's a little more advanced is if you want to partake in the liquidity pools. Recently, we just turned to V3. I do have a video on what V3 pools are. If you want to join the liquidity pool side and earn some APY based on bonus rewards, protocol fees, and trading fees, you can definitely do that in the same tab, but just liquidity pools. Again, I have a video explaining it a little more in depth. I can link it in the comments. So we have swapping, we have liquidity pools. That is kind of the base in all network that it's needed. Next up is actually staking. And again, in the same app.ronin chain, you can click RON staking and you can actually stake within many different validators. Now, just a quick note, staking your RON gets you network rewards as you are helping secure the network. So RON staking is pretty easily. You can go, again, app.roninchain.com, go on RON staking and look at all the different validators that are there. One thing to note, you can sort it by highest APR if you're chasing the highest APR. If you want to chase something a little more secure, set and forget, you can look for one of these governing validators because they are not going anywhere and they are pretty secure names and big names such as Moku, YGG, Coco Bear, but even Google, Nansen, some pretty big names in the space that have run some validators, and you could keep an eye on uptime, but I think most of them are in 99.95% and higher. So something to look at. It shows the APR here. The one thing about staking is it actually doesn't have any unlock period, but it does have a lock period when you stake. So once you stake, there's 3 days that the validator is locked. After those 3 days, you can withdraw your RON at any time. I do kind of like this, but it is something to note. If you stake your RON, it's going to be there for 3 days before it unlocks. If you restake in the same validator during those 3 days, it refreshes the 3 days. So if you want to hop validators, you can hop validators. If you don't want to reset the 3-day timers, if you wanted to withdraw. Another thing to note is some validators actually have prizes. I don't have them open today, but I do know Mark of the Zeal is doing some NFT giveaways. Here it is. If you stake a certain amount of RON. I also saw Third Bunny doing a monetary giveaway if you stake a certain amount of RON. And then you could kind of be speculative on some of these projects, whether they're games, whether they're applications on Ronin. They also might do giveaways, perhaps Moku, if you stake with them. So something to look at. It is probably going to be popular again to reward RON stakers. Ronin Realms did one as well. So moving on, we also have Launchpad. On the Ronin Launchpad, I'm pretty sure it's built by Impossible Fi, but it's going to be just rebranded as the Ronin Launchpad. You can partake in different games. Currently, or the launch of different game tokens. Currently, Wild Force is still going through its campaign. Here you can lock your RON for a certain amount of time and earn an allocation. So as you can see here, there was a staking period where you again lock your RON and you will get a certain amount of allocation that you pay for in USDC. They show the price of how much each token is. And at the end of the staking period, there's a purchase period, and the final period is a claiming period. So that is coming up soon. It's not too complicated. You do have to do some KYC if you want to partake in a Launchpad deal. But typically, you're getting tokens at a very, very cheap price. So far, the campaign before, which was a Perion, did very well. I think it almost 10x'd from launch. So we'll be keeping an eye on how Wildforce does. Again, markets change, things are different, tokens are different, games are different. You know, supply control is different. So we'll just have to see. But typically, you're pretty good if you get into one of these early stage deals. And I do feel in 2025, there will be a lot more token launches and deals on Impossible 5. So you want to have some RON ready for that. Now, if we go into a little more depth, we're going a little deeper into the DeFi rabbit hole. We do have MetaLend on Ronin. Now, MetaLend, I think the biggest purpose it does on Ronin is allow you to lend and borrow assets. If I do a quick overview of that, you're allowed to lend your ETH, your RON, and your USDC. So if I was to show you that real quick, you go to the earnings tab. You can keep it ticked to RON, and it'll show you the things you can do with your assets. Currently, I have some USDC lending. It's asking me if I want to withdraw it right now. But if I go to, it should be my earnings tab, deposits, and I go USDC, it'll show you the range of APR you can get. So go USDC, and then USDC on MetaLend. I would be able to deposit some USDC and right now earn 24% by lending it. So again, you could lend USDC, you can change it up, and if you want to deposit RON instead, you can go RON in MetaLend. Now they're showing both. So this here is if you wanted to stake, but this here is if you wanted to lend. So if you wanted to lend right now, it's only at 1%. You might be better off staking, but the option is there. So there's RON, there's USDC, and there's ETH, all available to lend. Now, what's the bonus in lending? When you lend your assets, it allows you to also borrow assets. So if we're looking, my total lending is around $25,000 here. I think it's a little less. I think that's just my total portfolio. I think it's around $21,000 that I'm lending. That allows me to borrow up to $10,000 in assets. So yes, if we look at my collateral, I have 21,000. I have some RON here. It's actually staked, but it could also be lending. And then some USDC that I'm lending out. Because of this 21,000 in collateral through MetaLend, I'm able to borrow up to 10,000. Now, something you want to keep an eye on is the rates. Right now, 38.4% is very expensive to borrow USDC. That's like credit card rates. But if you were to borrow RON at 5.5%, it's not bad. There's different strategies you can do today with that. And if you want to borrow ETH, it's at 14.4%, which is, it is also kind of high. So it looks like the borrowing market is really, really hot. A lot of people are borrowing assets. So if you wanted to lend it, you would actually get a decent APY on the hot items, which right now are ETH and USDC. Hence why I'm lending a little bit of my USDC. Of course, none of this is financial advice, and there's a lot of risks to go with borrowing. It is a form of leverage. So I can make a whole video on that if you guys want. Just ask for it in the comments. I can do that to tell you the benefits and risks. But that is available today on the Ronin network. Now, that just about covers all the major things in the Ronin network. What I would love to see is the next protocols. So one thing that I would really love to see is a perp DEX, or perpetual DEX, where it allows you to buy or sell long and short, and for multiple different tokens. I would love to see one Ronin focused so that you can, yes, see wrapped BTC if we get enough liquidity on it, but also for RON and a lot of different ecosystem tokens, AXS, even ARPS for Aperion, all the different tokens that come on Ronin. I think it would be really cool if you're able to long and short with leverage, but that's just for me. Another thing would be a borrowing and lending focused platform on Ronin. Right now, you can borrow and lend on MetaLend, but it is with the top 3 assets. And they are transforming more into a borrow and lending aggregator as they are across multiple networks, and they try to find you the best yield, which is a great tool, but it would be an even greater tool if there was a borrowing and lending platform natively on Ronin focused on that only. So something like Aave, if it comes on Ronin, would be really nice. Another one would be polymarkets. It showed to be very popular this cycle. There are some things being built out. I got to give out maybe a shout out to Tribally. They are the closest to a polymarkets on the Ronin network right now. But something even just for global predictions markets off different topics would be really cool. One other avenue that I don't know how useful it will be, but I'm sure people can find different use cases, would be to have a liquid staking token for RON. So it'd be some kind of staked ETH or liquid ETH. It'd be LRON or STRON. And then people can build off of that, so they don't have to worry about staking and unstaking. They can just hold one token that is generating yield. Just wanted to make a kind of long video about the state of Ronin right now. I think these are some base things are doing great on Ronin Network, and I think a lot will expand in the near future. Let me know if there's any of these things that I mentioned that you'd love to see a full video on or have questions about. I'm happy to make some content with DeFi or Ronin. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Cheers.